if you can train the heart to beat at a certain rhythm, then it becomes calmer. It calms down the entire body. But more importantly, it sends signals to the brain. This is not a destination. This is just a journey. You keep going.
So, Harry, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'll get straight into the questions. So, you've had such a remarkable career from working in high stress industries to personal transformation. So, what would you say was the turning point in your life where you decided to pursue a PhD in psychology, investigating mindfulness?
Turning point, there are lots of turning points, but specifically mindfulness. Around 2000, mindfulness gained a lot of popularity as a treatment, non-pharmacological treatment for stress, anxiety, depression, and other related conditions. And by early 2000s, it was being promoted almost like a panacea. As someone who had meditated for a number of decades, I was initially a bit skeptical about all the hype surrounding mindfulness. So this kind of this curiosity kind of led me to explore mindfulness from a scientific perspective. I did that during my honors degree, which ultimately became my focus for research during my PhD. So that's how I ended up investigating mindfulness scientifically.
Okay, that's interesting. And, you know, from working in that field and, with some personal experiences with stress and anxiety, do you have anything you can share about how mindfulness and emotional regulation has helped you personally?
I sure can. When I was young, I was in sales, which is, as everybody knows, is a very highly competitive field. And I was always driven, striving to be number one. And this was kind of my first real encounter with stress. And I had a lot of success. And I later bought a pharmaceutical company with a few of my friends who were equally ambitious but as inexperienced as I was in running business. So unfortunately, the business failed, and kind of my stress levels skyrocketed. And we tried again, second time, but we failed again. Afterwards, around 1997, I reckon, my family and I immigrated to New Zealand, which brought its own set of challenges and anxieties. And it was during this time that I began focusing more and more on meditation and other emotion regulation practices. And over time, I became calmer, and I found success in mortgage broking and real estate. I eventually founded a real estate company which flourished and provided financial security for me and my family. And I attribute it to my becoming calm with all these practices.
Yeah, I think that especially, I meditate daily and it definitely has a big impact on my mood. So
Excellent.
sometimes if the thing is, when you're feeling in that stressful mood, the last thing you really want to do is think, okay, I'm going to go sit still and, focus on my breath, for example. But
Yeah.
it has such a huge benefit in like calming your nervous system, right? And that can help you be more resilient. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, it would.
Definitely. Yeah,
It would.
yeah. So, as you said, a lot of there's been a lot of resurgence, not resurgence, but a lot of focus on mindfulness recently. So, do you think there's anything that's often misunderstood about it or overlooked?
I'd say so. Mindfulness, as I mentioned earlier, gained a lot of scientific as well as popular press focus, and one article after the other article was getting published. And the most common misunderstanding, in my opinion, is people mistake mindfulness for meditation. They're not the same. Mindfulness, at its core, is simply paying attention to the present moment without getting caught up or entangled in whatever arises in that particular moment. Meditation, on the other hand, can take many forms. And another misconception is the belief that just sitting on a cushion for 20 to 30 minutes a day will magically dissolve all the stress. While it may offer brief moments of calm That peace often fades away as soon as the daily life resumes. And the Buddha presented mindfulness as one part of an eightfold path designated to eliminate suffering. Mindfulness is neither more or less important than the other seven elements. And focusing on only solely on mindfulness without considering the broader picture misses the real intent. I think these are the from the top of my head, these are the few mistakes, misunderstandings that people might have.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And do you think that in the past, for example, where we didn't have such easy access to, mobile phones and the internet, were people just naturally more mindful because they were just concentrating on what they were doing?
Possibly because there were less distractions and we were not bombarded by so much of information. Everything comes from here, there, everywhere. It's pieces of information are jostling with each other to catch our attention. So probably the opportunities to stay in the present moment were probably more. Whether people were more mindful, I'm not sure. If that's the case, Buddha would not have presented this as a solution 2,500 years ago. So I would say, I would put it this way: there were less distractions. So people stayed in the present moment a bit longer. But
Yeah. So
I don't think that's human nature. Mind wanders, mind goes hither and thither. And in fact, Buddha described it beautifully. It's like a bird alighting here, there, everywhere. So that's what mind is. To be mindful, you need to have the bird on one particular in one particular place.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
that's a long answer to your question, man.
Yeah, thank you. So what drew you specifically to mindfulness as a component of emotional well-being, and how has your understanding of mindfulness changed throughout the years?
Hmm. Good question. I did gain a lot of clarity over the years about what mindfulness is and what mindfulness is not. As I mentioned, it was just a part of an eightfold path that Buddha offered, and it took on a life of its own, and it is more or less considered as a panacea. It does give you a little bit of calm, but not necessarily cure or banish stress, anxiety, and other related psychologically distressful symptoms. So it has to be shorn of all the jargon that surrounds it and understanding for what it is. It's a rich practice. If it is practiced correctly, then I think it is pretty useful. And the second thing I would say is mindfulness by itself is not sufficient because mindfulness, as I said, is focusing on the present moment. So you are actually training your brain to remain in the present moment. That's what it is. So there are other aspects to improving your well being, and mindfulness has got a part, but it is not the end all and be all. That's
Mhm.
what I believe mindfulness. That's it has got a place, but it is not the entire thing.
Okay, yeah, that's great. So you have kind of made your own protocol surrounding mindfulness and biofeedback. So could you walk us through your hash 60 protocol and explain how it combines mindfulness with heart rate variability biofeedback?
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. While I was doing my research for PhD, I did investigate mindfulness in its depth. Otherwise, they would not have given me a PhD degree.
Mm.
I did investigate it deeply, but while I was doing so, I got exposed to other modalities that have the same goal. For example, one of the modalities I got exposed to is heart rate variability biofeedback. Now, the goal of this practice is also giving us peace and allowing us to manage stress, anxiety, and other distressing symptoms in a positive way, in an effective way. And the goal of mindfulness is also the same. But these two, enormous amount of research is there in both about mindfulness as well as heart rate variability. But unfortunately, they grew in parallel lines. Only very recently they have started coming together. Scientists who have investigated mindfulness, like me, have also gone and investigated heart rate variability. I'll give you a slightly better explanation. Mindfulness, as I said, is training the mind to make yourself calmer, the
Mm.
body and everything, your emotions calmer. So it can be viewed as a top down approach, from here down to rest of the body. Whereas heart rate variability works with the heart. Heart, now you ask anybody, where do you feel anger? Where do you feel frustration? Where do you feel love? Everybody puts their hand on their chest. Now, that's not entirely true, but that's what most of us feel, that here is the seat of my emotions. So heart rate variability research has found that heart is another port of entry, like the brain. If you can train the heart to to beat at a certain rhythm, then it becomes calmer. It does the same thing as the brain does. It calms down the entire body. But more importantly, it sends signals to the brain. And most of us believe that brain controls heart and all the other organs. Fantastic. It is true to a great extent. Brains does send a lot of information. But what is less well known is heart sends a lot of information to the brain through the vagus nerve. And more information goes from the heart to the brain than the brain to the heart. So if you are allowing your heart to beat in a certain rhythm, which is heart rate variability, that is, you increase the variability of the heart rate beatings, then it actually entrains, because it's the biggest oscillatory system we have in our body. It actually co-opts and entrains all the other systems, including the brain. So it is calming the brain as well, which in turn is calming the rest of the body. So there is a synchrony between the top down brain mindfulness, this thing, and bottom up heart rate variability. So I realized that these two should have a great amount of synergy, because you have uh, you have two strings to your bow. So why not use it? So that's how I developed this protocol that combines both mindfulness as well as heart rate variability. The biofeedback part is an addition. Now you can do heart rate variability practice with or without biofeedback, but biofeedback gives you in real time a number, a graph that you can see. It is a window on your internal state. You know how your rest of the body is performing. And if you are stressed, I can tell you the rhythm that appears on the computer goes completely awry. Whereas if you are experiencing love, appreciation, gratitude, then the rhythm is completely different. So biofeedbacks gives you that additional input, real time input, so that you are motivated to continue your practice.
Okay, that's really interesting.
That's the reason I combine both, man.
Biofeedback, what exactly are you measuring?
Okay, in this particular biofeedback, let me just take a slight step back. When we talk about heart rate variability, it's not heart beating. Heart doesn't beat like a metronome. There is a difference between one beat to the next, varies, and that is called heart rate variability. The difference in the interval between successive beats is heart rate variability. And when it is higher, in a nutshell, it means that your parasympathetic system is working, is activated. You are much more peaceful. And there is another term. So the objective of this kind of a practice is to increase your heart rate
So
variability.
more
To
variability between beats is
correct,
good because that means you're in a relaxed
absolutely.
state.
Absolutely, you put the your finger on the exact right. This thing, it's you. The practice is to increase your heart rate variability, and it is clearly seen in the biofeedback. Biofeedback shows you that it can where it was and where it is. But there is one associated concept that has been promoted by one major institute called Heart Math Institute, which is based in America in Boulder. So they have done a lot of research. They have added one more term. It is coherence. That is the If you when you plot your heart rate variability on the computer, there is this nice wave like pattern that comes up. Now when you are incoherent, that is, you're angry, frustrated, the wave is jagged with all pointy edges. And when you are in fantastic, happy, peaceful, calm state, it's like a sine wave, goes nicely smooth like that. So biofeedback actually shows you every day morning when I do that, I see it. And that's such a motivating factor that I can see that I am improving. And the last thing about this biofeedback, this practice, is anybody can master it in a few days, just in a few days, because there are very clear practices that can be done easy, understood easily, and anybody can do that and almost master it in no time. And the improvement is incremental. You start today, it could be low, but then you see that every day it is going up. So that's what basically heart rate variability and biofeedback.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's really interesting. So, how does having the inclusion of the heart rate variability biofeedback enhance mindfulness practices? And why did you think this was an important thing to include in mindfulness practices?
Yeah. I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't call my practice as a mindful. I would call it as two different things working towards the same goal of giving us calm. But then, as I said, mindfulness is working from top down, and this is working from
Yes.
there. So there are two parts in your body that are working together. So the end result should be definitely better. But I have also found through my own practice that when I have put myself in a coherent state, my mindfulness also improves. And I found it from my own practice. But everybody has to do their own walk and find out if it improves. Definitely, both practices have the same goal. So I've included it in such a way that in the first you do your heart rate variability for a certain amount of time, in fact 20 minutes, and then 10 minutes you do mindfulness. But if you permit me, I'll just share with you my take on mindfulness and how that combines with this one.
Yeah.
Shall I go ahead and do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
See, most people do mindfulness, they sit on the cushion 20 minutes. My life is sussed. I'm happy. I'm no problems. All my stress is gone. But no, it comes back. So mindfulness without any kind of aim does give you some level of calm, but there is no transformation taking place. So you need to have a goal for mindfulness. In Buddha's eightfold path, mindfulness is in the service of cultivating wisdom ultimately. So if your mind is settled, it is not scattered, not running away hither and thither, then you are able to focus on whatever you want to achieve. So my kind of mindfulness, so that's what I believe. Mindfulness is should be purpose driven. So the way I have structured the hash 20 practice is that you have a specific purpose. For example, cultivating a particular quality of acceptance, quality of gratitude, love, whatever they may be. Actually, I have suggested four qualities to start with as well in my practice. So if you have that for 15 days, you practice that 20 minutes of heart rate variability, and on top sits the mindfulness practice. Where it is not, it is purpose driven, that you are doing that to achieve a certain objective, and it makes it worthwhile, and transformation can occur over a period of time because you are purposely focusing on a particular goal. An example would be mindful eating. It's quite well known that if you eat mindfully, and there is a lot of research support for that as well. If you eat mindfully, you lose weight. That's one way to lose weight. And also you savor the food that you are eating.
Mm.
That's a purpose driven mindfulness. So my practice, my mindfulness that I have advocated, promoted through hash 60 is a purpose driven mindfulness, but it is heart centered. So that's the reason I call it heart centered mindfulness, mindful meditation.
I guess your protocol is more focused on biological feedback rather than just concentrating on coming back to attention with the mind. So, as you say, it's
Absolutely.
you've got something to focus on. It's like, oh, increase my no, sorry, is it increase my variability of my heart rate? Then that means I'm more calm in a sense. So it's kind of something to work towards to.
Absolutely.
So rather than just thinking, okay, after 20 minutes, if I just keep focusing and coming back to attention, I'll feel better. But there's no kind of like quantitative thing to aim for example.
Yeah, there is no measure. And in fact, I had one of the researchers, I can't remember who, sometime back pointed out that mindfulness, even the best retreats, the practice falls by the wayside because there is no constant feedback. You don't know where you're going, so it is pretty kind of vague. So you need some kind of a feedback. That's how we get motivated. We are human beings. We need some feedback. Somebody has to tell us that you're doing well, or best is some objective marker that tells you that you are better than what you were yesterday.
Yeah.
This kind of, is it a number on mindfulness? I don't know. It's not a number on mindfulness. It is heart rate variability number,
Mm,
but it kind of opens a window to your internal state. Whether you achieve it from here or here, it is
yeah. I
immaterial.
guess it's indicative of how calm you are, and you can kind of helps you
Absolutely.
motivate to be more calm, I guess. So
Hmm.
yeah, really interesting. And going back to what you said on mindful eating, um, you know, a lot of people, will use phones, for example, whilst they're eating their food, and you really not focusing on what you're eating. And I'm not sure, Harry, but are you from Indian descent by any chance?
By all chances, I am Indian descent.
Yeah. Okay. So
Not any chance.
my so my family is Indian, and there's
Okay.
the cultural thing. People eat with their hands, and some people might think, okay, that's not, why would you do that when you can use a knife and fork? But quite a lot of the times when I've eaten with my hands, you do feel more mindful and connected to the things that you eat, and in some cases, when it tastes better because you're really focusing on the feel and the taste of the foods. I think that really just play into the whole role that mindfulness can have.
Yeah, but I can give you the other side as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I read probably 25 years back that eating with the hands is not a great practice. Written by
Okay.
an Indian magazine. The reason being, you can take bigger portions of food
Mm,
and just gulp it down. You're
yeah.
not
True.
actually
Yeah.
savoring it. So
Mm,
that's the other take.
that's a take. Yeah.
Some people feel that eating with fingers gives a better feel of everything.
But
I
I
don't
guess
know.
it
I
depends.
use four.
Yeah, I guess it just depends whether you're being mindful, I guess, whilst you do it. And as
Exactly.
you
Whatever you eat with, fingers or a fork and a spoon or a knife and a fork or whatever, you have to be mindful. In fact, who was that? I think Deepak Chopra in one of his lectures gave an excellent tip. I follow it religiously. That when you, even with the spoon, when you put when you take a mouthful of food, leave the spoon and fork in the plate and focus on your chewing the food in your mouth. Normally, as we are eating, we are picking up the next
mm,
mouthful with the spoon or with the fork or whatever. So he says, just leave the fork and spoon in the plate, and you have nothing else to do but chew and
yeah, and focus.
focus
Yeah,
on that. And I've consciously practiced. I do forget
yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I
Same.
consciously I just do it, and that's one way. Whether so, even with a fork and a knife, you put your mouthful, take a piece of bread, leave the fork in the plate.
Yeah, I agree. So, like for me, I try to have at least one meal a day, being mindful of what I'm eating because it's so
Excellent,
easy to
man.
just
Excellent.
blindly eat food and not even notice what you're even eating. Um, it tastes better. And the thing is, like, a lot of people feel, well, me included, you want to be entertained whilst you're eating your food. You want to find a good series on Netflix or something. But just having taken the time to just enjoy the food, it does make
Enjoy
you
the food.
feel better. You enjoy it more, and you're mindful in that moment, as you say, and that can help you with feelings of being calm, for example.
And you actually eat lesser. It has been
Mm,
shown very clearly that you eat lesser because every mouthful is giving so much amount of satisfaction. You eat lesser. They say for after we put something in our mouth, but when we eat it, by the time the satiety center is satisfied, it takes about 15 minutes.
mm.
So you just need to slowly savor everything so that you're happy and satisfied.
So, for someone who is just kind of starting out and exploring mindfulness, what would you suggest they begin implementing? For example, using your hash protocol, how could they integrate that into their daily lives?
The first thing is you have to commit. It's not a quick fix. It's a long term this thing, but knowing human tendency, knowing our and the way the modern world is going, I've tried to concise it into 60 days with four qualities to be cultivated. 15 days each quality for 15 days, so that is 60 days. That's how the 60 days has come. So you have to commit 30 minutes a day for 60 days. But I've also mentioned that you don't beat yourself up if you miss a day. Doesn't matter. You keep going in the direction of the 60th. By the way, if it is not 60 days for somebody, something comes up, some crisis comes up, or you just feel lazy, you can't get up, whatever the case may be, don't beat yourself up. Just keep going back and finish the entire thing. But the problem with most of these practices, I don't know whether you've gone to any retreats. People go to a retreat and come out thinking that my life is sorted, done. I've found the answers that I have been seeking all through. But within no time, that goes away. The busyness of life completely smothers it, it goes away. So you need some daily routines. Most things fall by the wayside because there are no routines. Now, I'll give you an example. You brush your teeth. Without fail, most of us get up and brush our teeth because that has become a routine. You do that.
Mm.
So you have to make the practice into a routine. So you have to do it at a particular time, but you can't force it down either. So the biofeedbacks gives you motivation to do it. But during the day, you have to be able to integrate it into your daily life. That's when the real transformation takes place. You don't want transformation just on the cushion and not in your life. You want your life to change. You want to be a better person, the person you want to be. So you need to integrate into your life. So I have suggested certain routines that you can incorporate into your life. Very simple routines. I've given just three routines, but you can add any number of routines you want, whatever appeals to you,
Mm.
doesn't matter. But some routine to integrate into your life. So these are two things. First, you commit that you will try to practice 30 minutes a day. If you can't invest 30 minutes a day in your betterment, forget about any improvement. 30 days, 30 minutes a day for 60 days or 70 days, however long it takes you, and incorporate some three routines I have described. So three routines you can incorporate. So that gets it into your life. So these are the two things that I don't expect miracles. And the last thing I would say is this is not a destination. This is just a journey. You keep going.
Mm.
I've tried to put you, if you are willing, I've shown you what path to get on and how to get on that and how to continue. Afterwards, you have to continue for the rest of your life. But I believe that if you see the benefits, you will continue.
So, for our listeners, they might be thinking there's lots of different things out there, and is this a one size fits all? Like, what? How does your program like differ to other programs that are out there?
it I've tried to make it a very general kind of protocol that more or less anybody can practice. But as individuals, we are all different. We have our own needs, our own problems, our own specific issues. And for that, you may need a bit of mentoring as well, a little bit of hand holding, which is what I'm trying to plan to start. I'm going to offer one on one mentoring and coaching. Probably by the end of the year, the program should be ready. From January onwards, I will offer to tailor it to individual needs. So that's how you take it to the next level. But by and large, this program should be applicable to more or less everyone. But for specific requirements, wait for the next announcement,
Okay,
which
great.
probably I
Exciting.
think will be New Year.
Okay, great. Yeah, it sounds very exciting for you. So you blend philosophies such as Buddhism with modern scientific insights. So how do you see these teachings complementing modern scientific research on emotional well-being?
Stoicism and Buddhism have stood the test of time, offering practical tools for reducing suffering and also cultivating resilience. Both emphasize emotional regulation, acceptance, and finding peace from within. Aligning, now these things align very well with the scientific research on emotional well being. Current studies on mindfulness and cognitive behavioral techniques often echo these ancient practices and showing that they help manage stress, anxiety, and lead more fulfilling life, flourishing. By blending these time-tested philosophy with modern science, we can create a more comprehensive approach to emotional well-being that integrates both wisdom and evidence-based practices. After all, mindfulness that is the mainstay for most of the psychological counseling these days has come from Buddhism. In fact, every religion has got some level, some form of mindfulness or the other. Meditation, prayer, in Sufism, dancing, all kinds of things. This is all mindfulness,
Mm,
basically.
yeah, definitely. So you've also written a book called From Anxiety to Are Amazing in 60 days. So is that built on the hash 60 protocol, and what kind of things in that can apply to our listeners who can start to manage their stress directly from that?
Yeah. The book Anxiety to Amazing in 60 Days is basically chronicles my journey of how I developed developed this protocol. What are the philosophies in which my protocol has 60 is rooted in, and what is the scientific evidence and how to practice it. In fact, the book itself is divided into three sections. The
Okay.
first is the philosophies. What philosophies have given rise to this kind of a thinking, mainly Buddhism, Stoicism, and other things, and then the science, what it supports, what it refutes, all that. Heart rate variability is a slightly dense science based chapter, but I've tried to simplify as much as possible. For interested readers, I put it in appendices. And the third section of the book is completely devoted to practice. Step by step instructions on how to practice hash 60 protocol. And also, there is one chapter on neuroplasticity, positive neuroplasticity. Most of the things escape us because they are not etched into our neural architecture. We have to do things repeatedly for things to become a habit.
Mm.
And positive neuroplasticity has done a lot of research on how to get them to become a habit. So I have included a chapter on that as well. So it's actually a
Mm.
combination of the philosophies, the science, inclusive of a positive heart rate, positive neuroplasticity, and the practice. So that's how the book will translate into a kind of a manual, honestly.
Mm.
But I've tried to give some background so that people don't have to just trust that
Yeah.
here is Dr. Harry Somaraju. He has written a book about some hash protocol. So I've given why it is work, why it will work, and how it will work, and how to practice it. and how to integrate it into your life and your neurons.
Yeah, well, like, yeah, what you said about the habits and the neuroplasticity, I find that really interesting. So, you know, as you said, with brushing your teeth every day, that is a habit, and it's so easily done because you do it every day. When you form a new habits, it's hard at the start, isn't it?
It's
Because
hard.
you
It's hard.
travel, those thoughts are traveling down neurons, which are not those synaptic connections are not well traveled. So it's like trying to go down a road which is full of obstacles and barriers that you're having to dodge or evade. Whereas the more you travel, the more clear the road becomes, and then you're just going to find it so much easier if you keep up to date. If you do something daily, practice this protocol every day, then you're just going to find it so easy that it's as easy as brushing your teeth, essentially.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's exactly the basis for the 60 days.
Mm.
A lot of research has come out. Initially, they used to say you have to do something repeatedly, maybe 20 times or 20 days for it to become a habit. And then it went all the way up to 254 days that you have to do for something to become a habit. But the latest research, the most recent research says it is about 59 to fact. I can't remember how they have arrived at that particular figure. So that's the basis for the 60 days. 60 days, you repeatedly do something. But then also we have to take new human nature into account that 60 days doing the same thing might get monotonous, and that in itself might work against making it a habit. So I've cut it down into four chunks of 15 days each. For 15 days, you cultivate one quality. And I've given a catchy acronym for that. It's PAC: patience, acceptance, contentment, and kindness. That's PAC. The four qualities, fundamental qualities, I believe. If you cultivate them, you gain a momentum and off you go. But then I also explain how you can identify your own factors. So each element of that you cultivate for 15 days. So by the end of 15 days, being contented becomes a habit. Being kind
Mm.
becomes a habit. So that's the basis of forming a habit. If you
Mm.
don't make it a habit, it'll go. Trust me, it'll go off in 10 days. Gone.
Yeah. So the you kind of change things a bit over the 15 days to the next 15 days, which also keeps it interesting as well. So sustainable happiness is a central theme of your work. And in your experience, what are some of the biggest obstacles that people face in maintaining lasting happiness, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, one of the biggest obstacles to lasting happiness is the pursuit of momentary peace through quick fixes. Hearing a nice lecture, going to a retreat. I keep saying, a lot of people, in fact, in retreats, when I go, people say, when they are asked, why did you come to the retreat? Say, oh, I was absolutely stressed, so I had to come here. So people are using these as a short term fix. Now, that's what works against cultivating long term happiness. And the short term thing is not transformative, it'll disappear in no time. And they do give a calm, but they don't lead to sustainable happiness. Lasting happiness requires consistent effort and integrating mindfulness and emotional regulation into our daily lives and addressing the root cause of stress and dissatisfaction. It's not about building resilience and inner stability over a period of time rather than seeking fleeting moments of
Mm.
peace. So it requires patience and commitment over a period of time. Hopefully, within 60 days, you will establish a momentum that'll keep you going.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think that, happiness in a way is a choice and you can work towards it. So I've been actually reading, well, actually got a little diary called the 6 Minute Diary. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but in there it talks about, so a lot of people will focus on happiness as, they'll be happy when they get this new job, or they'll be happy when I go on this holiday, I'll be happy. But then they're not focusing on the happiness in everyday life, and they're just trying to have a form of escapism, whether that can be from drugs, alcohol, or anything from shopping, just to to feel happy and to escape their current negative feelings. But that just doing that admits that they're not happy right now. Do you
Correct.
agree with
Exactly.
do you agree that happiness can be a choice and that you can work towards that?
Yep. Not only a choice. I've dealt at length about this in my book. That's exactly the example you gave. I gave it in a slightly different way. Don't think that people think that the happiness is out there. So you get that fantastic promotion. You get that glitzy new Tesla, a big 70-inch TV. Then you feel that you think that you'd become happy. No, it'll go away. These are, in fact, there are studies that have shown that people who have even won big lotteries, their level of happiness came down within a very short while. Happiness is here. Happiness is here. As you speak, happiness is within you. Happiness is within me. It is covered by our constant striving for something else. And I'll give you my own personal example. I did two marathons when I was 58, 59. I did two marathons, and I thought once I do my marathon, I'd be happy. But the moment I finish the marathon, within by next day, that memory is gone. But practicing towards that, the process gave me a lot of happiness. So it is a process. It is not a destination. Happiness is not a destination. Happiness is a process. It is right inside us. So if we seek inside, if we make a choice that I have to be happy and create circumstances to be able to be happy, then the happiness will come nicely. It'll settle within our heart. You just focus on creating the right atmosphere for happiness to alive. Don't pursue happiness. So it's a choice you make. Do everything you want. Do everything you have to for it to come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I'd also like to add on to that is that, you know, I don't know what your opinion of this is, but you shouldn't aim to be happy all the time. Like that is, I guess, not happy, but as in you still have to expect moments of sadness and to be happy even in response to like sad things. That isn't something that you should try to achieve.
No, I think that will be a big mistake. That will create more stress than happiness. In fact, as I just alluded a minute back, I have argued that pursuing happiness is foolish. You can't pursue happiness. It's like a mirage. It'll keep going away. What you can do is instead turn inwards and say that I have to do all these things. And you can focus on things that are internal to you. As I said, the 4, 5 qualities, 10 qualities, you cultivate them. Happiness will automatically come. But coming to your point, if you think that you can banish stress forever, it is even more foolish. No way. We are all human beings, and there are circumstances outside our control which will make us unhappy. For example, what's happening, the Milton hurricane in Florida. If that happens here, we would be unhappy. Those are outside our control, but you can work on a lot of things inside you. Focus on working on those things. Happiness will come.
Yeah, great. Yeah, hopefully.
And there will be
Yeah,
periods of stress. There will be
yeah,
periods of stress, even for me. But
yeah, yeah,
but the point is, you should, if the stress arises, which it will, which definitely it can come up, then you have the ability to deal with it efficiently
yeah,
without getting caught up and swept away. You know, oh yeah, this is there. That's it.
yeah. I think
Accept it.
I read something. I can't remember who to attribute it to, but essentially you could say, stress or unhappiness or these kind of feelings comes as two darts. So the initial one is, I guess, the stress or the situation itself, and the second one is beating yourself up about it because you feel stressed. I shouldn't feel stressed. I shouldn't be unhappy. So I think it's practicing
I'll tell you
acceptance.
who said
Who is
that.
that?
Buddha, the
Okay,
Buddha.
yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was the Buddha, but
The Buddha gave that example.
yeah,
First
yeah,
dart, and second dart. He gave the example. He said, "Look, first dart, like he actually gave physical. At that time, there were bows and arrows. So
Mm,
when you are struck with an arrow, you don't, the way he describes it, you don't ask who shot this. I would like to know who shot this
mm,
and what it is made of. Now that's not going to solve your problem. You
no.
need to pull it out and apply the medication. So he said we do a lot of things, second darts.
Yes.
We bleed more from the second darts than
Mm,
the first darts. The
yeah.
first darts are outside our control. Like, for example, a war, a hurricane, a natural disaster. Those are outside our control. But how we respond to them is within us, and
Yeah.
those are the second darts.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely something hard to master as well, because you sometimes I can feel myself kind of think, feeling the second dart and being getting out of control a bit, and but then as you say, the more you practice, the more resilient you can become
The
to
more you
deal with those
practice,
situations.
there's no shortcut. There's
Yeah,
no
exactly.
shortcut. You have to
Yeah, there's no
practice.
shortcut to
Internalize
that
it.
thing. So, could you share a success story from someone who's used your hash 60 protocol, and have they seen any like significant changes in emotional resilience or their own personal happiness?
I can. In fact, I can show you the example, which is right in front of you, in front of the camera. Myself, I am a living example of that. But that apart, recently I had a very good feedback. Somebody bought the book and gave a feedback, and that man practiced for all the 60 days. He reported to me what changes he observed. I can say that's the most recent feedback I've had.
Mm,
He's quite a busy professional, but with two young children and two young children. So all the attendant hassles were there. He used to get worked up. He used to get frustrated, angry, shouting at people on the road, the traffic. All those kind of things used to frustrate him. But he says after 60 days, he feels much more calmer. He is not getting worked up to that extent. And he seems, the one thing he has observed, I believe, he has slowed down. He's able to respond to things rather than react to things. And and he has also suggested said that he is more kinder to not just other people, but even inanimate things. In fact, I always say you have to be kind to your mobile. It is doing a lot of service to you. You have to be kind to the camera that is doing all these things. So he says he's kinder, and that is the most recent feedback. And that I was glad that somebody shared. It's a direct feedback after practicing hash 60.
mm. Yeah, that must feel really nice as well to help people, you know, control their stress and anxiety. Because, as you say, mindfulness is a kind of a new hot topic, and having your take and the biofeedback, which could that could really work for someone that who might normal mindfulness, meditation might not have resonated with them, or they might not have felt the motivation.
And
Yeah.
if I may, I apologize for that, but I want to add a little bit of correction in your this thing. You don't
Okay.
control the stress.
Yeah.
You stress is there. If it is stress from outside on which you don't have any control, leave it.
Mm.
It's an external. That's the Stoic philosophy. That's an external. You can't control it. Somebody says Harry is not a nice person. No, you can't control it. It's outside. But how you respond is within you. So how you react, so your acceptance. So I would say
Mm.
manage your stress response rather than control it, because
Yes.
stress is going to be created by forces outside you
Well, I guess that's why you
that
say
can't be
yeah.
controlled.
I guess that's why you say you feel
Stress
stressed.
response.
Not that
Sorry,
there's a lot of stress around. You feel stressed. So it's like
you feel stressed.
you can have things around you and not feel stressed. It just depends, I guess, how you cope with them. Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who feels skeptical about mindfulness or biofeedback as a tool for stress management?
Yeah, nobody would be a bigger skeptic than me. I'm always very doubtful of big claims and those kind of things, and that's precisely the reason I wanted to investigate mindfulness in a scientific manner. I spent close to 5 years investigating it scientifically. What I would recommend is that people start this with an open mind and experimenting with for themselves. Mindfulness is not about instant results or a magical solution. It's a practice that, with consistency, can bring noticeable changes in how you respond to stress. And the biofeedback, which uses real time data like heart rate variability, helps make the process more tangible. People can see what is happening by showing you how your body is reacting to stress and how you were able to calm it down. So you don't have to believe it right away. Just give it a try and see if the results speak for themselves. Many who will start out as being skeptical should find it useful. I reckon it could happen,
Mm,
but you got to try. The thousand steps have to start with the
exactly.
first one.
And I guess, what damage does it do if you try and it doesn't work in the first place? It's like you've got nothing really to lose. I used to be quite a big skeptic of, I guess, mindfulness and meditation practices. I'm also a scientist, and I used to think, oh, this is some, hippie thing that, this doesn't really work. But then I guess for me, one of the things was having kind of some scientific evidence, of calming your parasympathetic nervous system kind of made me think, okay, maybe it is something right with this. And since 2019 I've pretty much meditated once or twice a day since, and it really does help, not only with sleep but just, I guess. And then you, with what Dr. Harry is talking about his book here, is if integrating it more into their everyday life. So not just having like a, as you
Absolutely.
said, like a fad diet where you just you do this diet and you lose loads of weight and then you put it back on. It's kind of more integrated of everyday like practices.
You're right. You're right. Without integrating it into our daily life, transformation will not take place. You'll be back to square one in no time.
Yeah. So what do you see about the future of some mindfulness practices in like the health and wellness space? And do you think that the Hash 60 protocol helps contribute to that vision?
All over the world, people are seeking holistic therapies with fewer side effects, much like the growing demand for organic foods or the rise of lifestyle medicine, which promotes healthy living to prevent and treat chronic diseases like heart disease or diabetes or metabolic syndrome or those kind of things. And if mindfulness, or for that matter, any other health practice, are understood for what they are without being overhyped or misrepresented as miracle cures, then mindfulness and heart rate variability biofeedback will continue to gain traction in the mainstream healthcare. Maybe not as the first choice, but as a complementary. You cannot ever wish away the medicines. You got to take some medicines for different disorders, but this could become a very good complementary therapy. And I believe my hash 60 protocol can contribute to this movement because it is evidence based. And in my book, I work to dispel a lot of myths surrounding these practices. And by grounding mindfulness in science and realistic expectations, I hope Hash 60 becomes a trusted tool in fostering long term well being. There is one small tidbit I would like to offer. One of the fundamental ways you increase your heart rate variability is by breathing slow over a 10-second period, 10-second cycle, inhalation and exhalation combined. It's been
Mhm.
there as a part of pranayama for ages. Recent research has found that it actually helps in Alzheimer's. It actually either dissolves or melts away or completely destroys those amyloid proteins and tau proteins, the plaque, which is the precursor for Alzheimer's. It is very The research is in infancy, but it'll be such a boon that if there is a non-pharmacological intervention to help with Alzheimer's, it'll be great.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
just read
Yeah.
about it very recently.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And, I think stuff like mindfulness and, biofeedback, I think prevention is always better than cure. So, if
Absolutely.
people learn how to manage their stress, stress is a massive, massive thing that can cause a lot of other conditions. If you're stressed, you're much more likely to have, you know, psychotic episodes, you're much more likely to struggle with many other mental health conditions. So if you are able to deal with stress better in a preventative sense, then you're going to help so many people from reaching that crisis point in the first place and not actually even end up requiring pharmacological intervention.
Absolutely. That's where the lifestyle medicine is gaining a lot of traction, using lifestyle changes as a therapeutic tool.
Hmm.
It's gaining a lot of traction. That's having managing stress, as you said, eating nutritious food, sleeping well, exercising, having social connections. All these things are becoming more and more important, and are gaining a lot of evidence as worthwhile therapeutic interventions.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think it's really important that people invest time in themselves because, you're your biggest, greatest project. So, if you can invest in anything, invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself.
Yeah. So, do you have any kind of last words of wisdom or inspiration or hope for any of our listeners who might be struggling with stress or mental health problems right now?
I would shy away from say wisdom, because I'm not wise. I have learned a few things, but I'm not wise. But one thing I to get some trust, belief, inspiration that this will work, one can try one simple technique which is part of heart rate variability training. It is called heart focused breathing. It's just a 2 or 3 minutes practice, and like I said, what I've described is the protocol itself is for long term sustainable happiness. But then what happens when you get out into life? You have a difficult meeting, you meet a difficult customer, whatever it is, so in the moment stress. And to deal with that, there is a variation of heart rate variability practice that you can do, which is called heart focused breathing. So it's a simple technique, 2 to 3 minutes before you go into what you think is going to be a challenging meeting. Stand there and put your hand on your chest and breathe slightly deeper than you normally would. Inhalation 5 seconds, exhalation 5 seconds. Do it for 3 minutes. Science has shown just doing this will activate your parasympathetic system and deactivate your sympathetic nervous system. So you're bound to feel calmer when you go in with that kind of a thing, in that kind of a state. Most meetings will start, you not only you feel calmer, but your heart talks to the other person's heart, and everybody starts becoming calmer and calmer. You could try this practice, just 3 minutes. When you anticipate a stressful thing or you are actually feeling stressed, just do 3 minutes of inhalation, exhalation, 10 seconds, or a count of five. That's it.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and thank you very much for everything you've shared on the podcast today. It's been a pleasure to have you on here. So yeah, until next time, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.